Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre at the latest weekly Monday press briefing reported on the Oecs heads of government's discussions with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio with a focus on potential regional economic impacts from new U.S. tariffs. He detailed Saint Lucia's planned strategies to mitigate these economic pressures and provide an update on the nation's economic health and the measures to address the rising cost of living. During the meeting, Oecs leaders voiced concerns about the U.S. tariffs, emphasizing the potential hardship on sectors reliant on U.S. goods. Pierre pointed to the substantial trade imbalance favoring the U.S., citing significant differences in export and import values.
In addressing the 10% U.S. tariffs now imposed on all imports, including from the Oecs, our leaders emphasized the economic hardship this measure may impose, particularly in sectors dependent on U.S. goods, such as health, education, and food security. Additionally, the Lucians heads brought to the Secretary attention that the U.S. enjoyed an overwhelming favorable balance of trade advantage with the Oecs. In 2023, the U.S. exported $2.23 billion to the Oecs in comparison to U.S. $67.5 million in Oecs exports to the USA.
Regarding the U.S. tariffs, Pierre acknowledged the anticipated limited immediate effect on Saint Lucia's exports due to their low volume to the U.S. However, he recognized the potential for increased import costs and outlined proactive measures, including expanding zero-rated food items and removing service charges on essential goods to counteract these effects.
In the meantime, we are taking some steps to help in the cost of living. Number one, say in the budget, we are zero-rating a few more food items. We have been discussions with the Chamber of Commerce on these items. That means that the price of a few goods should go down by 12.5% immediately. Immediately. The goods on the basket of goods, we are removing the service charge on them because the service charge was for, I think, a year or so. That's over. Removing the service charge. That's going to happen, if not next week, the week after. We expect on the 1st of July, the cost of a few items in the supermarkets which we list supposed to go down immediately because we're going to zero rate them. As you know, consumers began paying less for gasoline. They began paying $16 per gallon for gasoline. That began in the new price. I'm reviewing the new price structure for gasoline, which should be implemented, I think, 24th of May. So these things are happening. But I can tell you that in terms of the cost of living, the government has taken some decisive steps.
The Prime Minister reaffirmed his commitment to diplomatic engagement and a measured approach concerning U.S. trade policy, stressing the distinction between domestic and foreign policy matters.
Elections have consequences. The U.S. voted for President Donald Trump. They voted for him. They voted for his policies. They voted for what he stood for. Who am I to say to the U.S. people that they must not support the policies of their president? It is folly for him to go and make wild statements about U.S. policy. What we must do as small islands, we must align ourselves so that our interests can be protected. And this is why I said it was too early when the tariff situation came out for him to make any statement. So we formed a committee. But as usual, all the prophets were out making all kinds of statements. And look at that right now. The tariffs have been slashed, have been stopped for 90 days between China and the U.S. So I was right. I'm sorry to tell you, but I was right in that I was cautious. And I took my time. And I said, let's form a committee. I didn't go and make wild statements of grandeur.
On the subject of Saint Lucia's Citizenship by Investment program, Pierre stated that while the U.S. delegation expressed no negative concerns, they emphasized the ongoing need for rigorous due diligence and biometric screening. Lastly, Prime Minister Pierre addressed the presence of Cuban medical professionals within Oecs nations, categorically rejecting the implications of human trafficking and highlighting their crucial role in providing essential healthcare services, particularly in remote and underserved areas. Joachim Duplessis, HTS News Force.